Hey, second graders, this is Mrs. Daniel from Citizenship Academy. Today, we are going to be making arrays using square tiles. You probably don't have square tiles at home, but you can use Life cereal, which is squares. You can use Cinnamon Toast Crunch pieces of cereal, Cheez-Its, square Legos, or you could cut paper into squares. Um, but you're going to need a total of 25 for the different activities we're going to do today. So you're probably going to need to pause this video and go collect something that is squares so that you can do the activity along with me. Okay? Okay. For the first activity, we will need 10 of those squares. Okay? 10 tiles. And I want you to put the 10 tiles into two groups. I'm going to show you what I mean. So here's one group, and here's two groups. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in one group, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in the second group. Okay? Just giving you a second to manipulate your materials into two groups. Now, I want you to take one group and put them in a row. Take one group and put them into a row. Remember, rows are across. So you should have 5 in your first row. And now you're going to take the second group and you're going to make another row. Make sure, see how these tiles are all against each other. They're touching. There's no spaces in between. Make sure you do that with your tiles. And then your row underneath, it should be touching the top row. Okay, so they should all be touching close together. So we have 2 rows here. You don't have to line up the colors. It just happened to be that all my colors lined up together. I didn't do that on purpose. Okay, so we have 1 row. We have 2 rows. 2 rows. How many are in 1 row? How many tiles are in 1 row? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if I wanted to make this an addition problem and use repeated addition, I could say 5 plus, and then this row has 5, equals, what does 5 plus 5 equal? 10, right? Okay. So we have 2 rows of 5, and our addition sentence will be 5 plus 5, 5 plus 5 equals 10. Now I want you to take your 10 tiles, and this time we're going to put them into columns, 2 columns, okay? Because see, this one has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 columns. This time I want you to use 10 tiles and put them into 2 columns, okay? Go ahead and get out 10 tiles and put them in 2 columns. Okay, so I've got 5 in one group and 5 in another group, and I'm going to move these and I'm going to put them into 2 columns, okay? So we're going to make 2 columns here. This is our first column. Remember I said to make sure the pieces are touching and that they are against each other. And here's our second column. Okay. Now I have 2 columns. 1, 2. And I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rows. So this addition sentence, if I'm doing it in rows, this addition sentence, I can move it down a little bit out of the way. This addition sentence is going to be 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2. So there's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Okay? So look at this. So this array has 2 rows with 5 in each row, and our answer is 10. This array has 2 columns with 5 in each column and 2 in each row, and the answer is still 10. So you can use the same number of tiles and put them in a different sequence, but still get the same answer. This time, you will need 15 counters. And I want you to put your counters into 3 groups of 5. So I have 5, 10, 15. So take 15 counters and put 5 in each group. These are equal groups because they have the same number in each group. Now what we're going to do is we're going to put each group into a row. So I'm going to use my counters and I'm going to put them into a row. Remember, a row is a cross. Remember, we want them touching. We don't want a big space in between each one. So you're putting them up against each other. So here we have 5 in one row. And now I'm going to do a second row. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we have 2 rows of 5, and we're going to do another row. So we're going to have 3 rows of 5. And I want you to put your tiles right against each other with no big spaces. Okay? So that's what our array would look like. Now, we're going to use our rows to do our addition sentence. So how many was in row number 1? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we have 5 plus, how many is in our next row? Remember that they're equal groups, so there's the same number in each row. And how many is in our last row? 5. And we can count by 5s. 5, 10, 15. Or you could say 5 plus 5 equals 10, and 5 more would give you 15. Okay? Now what I would like you to do is using these 15 blocks, this time I want you to put them, I want them to have 3 columns and 5 rows. So you're going to use these blocks and you're going to make it into 3 columns and 5 rows. Okay? Go ahead and start moving your pieces around. 3 columns, 5 rows. So we're going to take these 3 groups and put them into 3 columns. And remember, the pieces are going to go right up against each other. And we will have 3 columns with 5 rows. Okay? And as you're doing this, I want you to think about what might our addition sentence be. You think we'll have the same answer that we did over here? Will we end up with the same answer? Right, let's look at it and see. So we've got how many in our first row? 1, 2, 3. So we have 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus one more group of 3. 3 plus 3 equals 6. Here's another 3 plus 3 equals 6, so that's 12. And 3 more gives us 15. So it was a lot more numbers to add because they were smaller numbers, but we still ended up with 15 both times. Okay? So we can have our array going across. We're going to have it going up and down. Let's look at this rectangle array we have right here. And if we wanted to change this rectangle into a square, what would we need to do? Because right now this is a rectangle, it's not a square. What would happen if I got rid of this row? Take them out for a minute. Now we have a square. We have 3 columns and 3 rows. Okay? So if I put these ones back, what would I need to add to make it a square? So if we have 1, 2, 3, 4 columns and 1, 2, 3 rows, what if we made another row and we had 4 columns and 4 rows? Does that make a square? It sure does. Remember that a square has it has 4 equal sides, which means that the top is the same length as the side is the same length as each side. So if we have 4 columns, then we would need 4 rows. We would need the same number in each. Okay? So the way to make this guy over here a square, what would we do? We could do a square that's 2 rows and 2 columns. That's a square. Same number across, same number down. What if you had let's see, we did 4 and 4, 16. What if you had 12 blocks? How could you use 12 blocks to make a square? Get 12 of your counters, and what would you do if you had 12? 1, 2, 3, 4. So that would mean one of these rows would be gone. So using what I have here, 12, how could I change that? Right now it's 1, 2, 3, 4 across, and 1, 2, 3 down. What could we do to make this a square? Could we take one row off and put it here? Does that make a square? Or is that going to give us another rectangle? That gives us another rectangle. What should we do? How can we make 12 into a square? So the way we would need to do it would be to take away 3 tiles, and now we have a nice square, 3 and 3. Or if we cut those tiles, we would need to add another column. All right. Well,